Good afternoon and welcome. Thank you for joining us for today's Focus on Success. Today we're going to show you how to convert leads into contacts on existing accounts. There are several considerations today, and the first thing that we'll talk about is which leads do you want to consider, and this is going to be part of your filter considerations. So which leads would you actually like to convert, and also which accounts do you want to convert them onto. So all of that can be configured at the filter level. The next piece that we'll think about are your convert rules. This is the how we want it to happen. And there are a number of options. We leverage the native Salesforce and include some additional options for you to be able to go in and set up. And so we'll show you how to walk through all of those steps. A third item that we want to just brush on is the ability to manage owner mapping. And this is the same owner mapping that you set in place for your merge rules so that you can ensure that even if the owner of an account is not active, that the conversion still takes place by mapping the owner to someone else. So you'll be able to use that same mapping, and we'll show you where and how to set that up. In related topics, we want to touch very briefly on merging leads with existing contacts. That's going to be your lead to contact filter. And sometimes if people have not looked at the difference, they get the lead to account and lead to contact filters confused. But this was a topic that you can view our former webinar from December 6th. It's available on our help.cloudingo.com knowledge base website. And that's the process of merging leads when you already have a contact in your database. So of course you would want to handle that first. And then converting leads into new contacts and also creating the account when none exists. This is another related and popular topic. We have a webinar showing you instructions for this. The date of that was November 20th. And so that's going to be available whenever you need to access it as well. So at this point, let's jump in and look at today's. This, of course, is your Cloudingo dedupe dashboard. And the filter that we're going to be working with is this lead to account filter. Now, just to talk through all of your considerations. Your account filters don't have to be down to zeros, but one thing you do want to think about is when we're converting leads into contacts on accounts, you want to have your accounts clean enough and down to a level that you're converting the leads onto the account where you would like them to reside. So you may take a look at your account filters first. Next, in the order of process, you'll want to work through this lead to contact filter. That's the one that I mentioned, and you can access the webinar that was done earlier this month. But this is where the contact actually already exists and you have a matching lead. The reason we want to work through this first is we don't want to actually be creating a duplicate contact by converting the lead into a new contact if one already exists. So our focus today is going to be here on the lead to account. Now, let's go in and look at your filter options. This should look very similar to your dedupe filters. You do have the number of different tabs, and the first tab is where if you have multiple rules, of course, you'll be able to select how you want to convert the leads onto those accounts. That's at the bottom. Remember, if you do customize your filters, that you probably want to update the filter name so it's clear what records we're looking at, what leads would be converted into which accounts. Tab 2. This, of course, is where you determine how we're going to say the lead should belong to a specific account, and those are the ones that we want to convert into contacts. Now, this is going to look slightly different than your dedupe filters in that what you see in the top of the filter selected is the lead value. So, of course, on the lead, it's called the company. And then under that is what field do we want to compare that on the account. And, of course, the company on the lead, we're talking about matching it to the account name on the account. Now you still have your different matching styles available. And some things to think about or consider when we're here. Our default filter comes as an exact match. And the idea here is that the safest way to convert the leads into contacts on your accounts is a true one-to-one match for the account name, so you're certain it's the right account. If you've done that and you'd like to expand it and maybe catch ones with some of our company name clean options, you could choose a different matching style. We're still going to leave it as the account name, but we could choose that company name clean. And remember, just as a reminder for this one, that matching style allows you to ignore articles like the words A and D that sometimes are at the beginning and sometimes left off at the company or account name. It also ignores common corporate suffixes like incorporated, company, limited, LLC, GmbH. So it is going to give you a more robust match, but you then may want to go in and review your accounts that we find and make sure you're picking up the correct leads that you actually want to convert onto those accounts, since there'll be more flexibility and variations that are possible with the company to account name there. Now, if you wanted to tighten it up further, maybe you have lots of accounts or you match them down to a state level. You can add as many fields as you want. So just as an example, if we wanted to say we also want the accounts and leads to be in the same state, once again, it would be the state on the lead field to the billing state on the account field. If you'd like, remember we have our synonym list available. Ignoring case is always a nice option. And with this one, to enable synonyms, we would leave it as exact. So that's the way we can adjust what fields need to match on the leads and the contacts to consider, or leads and accounts, to consider them the ones we'd like to convert. The third tab, this is where we can set additional limitations or conditions in place. So let's say that you would only like to convert leads that are in the qualified status. So you notice at the top, you can choose not only the field, but which object we're looking on. So right now I have lead selected. So then I could come down and say the lead status has to be equal to qualified. Remember, with equal and not equal, you could enter a second or third value. You can enter as many as you want. So I could say qualified or contacted. And this is telling Cloudingo, don't look at leads in other statuses. We're only interested in converting ones onto the account if the status is contacted or qualified. Similarly, instead of putting a requirement on the lead, you could also set some sort of requirement on the account. So maybe you only want to look at a certain record type or only current customers, and those would be the leads that you want to convert onto the accounts. So you notice when I toggled over to the account, my fields changed, and what we're looking at are the account fields now. So it could be account types. This also, instead of including a value, would allow you to exclude certain values if there are records that you do not want the leads converted into contacts on. So those options are available here under limiting your records. And of course, tab 4, limit your groups. You could limit group size if we only wanted to see the accounts with a smaller number of leads that would match, or maybe you're going to feel comfortable automating ones if you have less than or equal to 75 leads, but more than that, you would want to review them first. So remember, this just lets you put some sort of a size limitation in. You could also put limitations based on any field, either on the lead or the contact. So maybe you say we only want to look at leads where the create date is within a certain range or greater than a certain value. So these are all different ideas and considerations for selecting which leads we want to convert onto which accounts. Next, we're going to go in and take a look at the grid, see some of our results. And one thing that I wanted to point out is I have a couple groups with Pixar here. One of them is 201 and one is 200. And if we go in and review, that tells me either that I have two Pixar accounts and I have the ability to decide which one I want to convert the leads onto, or since this is 201, which is the maximum, that's one account with 200 leads, what I'm suspecting is that this is the same account, but we have at least 400 leads to convert onto it. So it's just split into two different convert groups. And so sure enough, we come in. You can order the fields if you'd like to review things first. So remember, from sort, field ordering and style. And then while you're hovering over field ordering and style, you choose which object. And remember that you can not only change the field order for them to be displayed in Cloudingo, but you can also make any fields bold that you'd like to stand out to help you with the review process. So we can see I have the account ID on the top, and it's Pixar. And then each of these are leads on with the company of Pixar. And if I go to the next one, sure enough, it's that same account ID. So I just have a number of leads. Now this brings up another point, as you'll see that I have duplicate leads. Just like we talked about cleaning up your accounts first, it's a really good idea to clean up your leads first so that you're not having to convert duplicate leads, creating duplicate contacts. So remember that it's best practice to work through your single table filters before moving to your multi-table filters. Now we're going to go into a smaller group. So this is Symphonic Source, and we have 3 leads here, all on the same company. And now we're going to talk about our convert rules. Your convert rules are going to leverage your native Salesforce convert rules. And so if you would like, you can group any fields together. That's not necessarily used as much with the conversion. That's more used with the dedupe and how you want to merge records. Over here on how do you want to convert the records, the first important decision you'll have, by default, the account owner would be the owner of the newly created contact. However, if you would prefer to have the respective lead owner continue to own the new contact on your account, you can select that as well. By default, all of those lead fields that would be mapped onto a contact when you convert leads to contacts would be mapped. If you need to put in any specific field rules for updating information on the account, you can do that. That's not very commonly done. But the next piece we want to look at, these are some additional options you have. And one that's important for everyone to do is to select the converted lead status. And of course, I have a default of qualified. If you have multiple values, though, you'll be able to select which one you'd like to choose. Your other options here, the default is going to be not creating an opportunity. If you'd like to, you can make that selection here and tell us how to name the opportunity. You also have the ability to trigger Cloudingo into sending an email to all of the accounts, to all of the owners. And finally, you can have Cloudingo create a task when the lead is converted into a contact. So these are all options that once you set up once, you would be able to go through the groups individually, doing the manual convert, or of course with mass conversion or automation. So we're going to go back to our group. And once you've verified that these in fact are the leads that we want to convert, and this is an account that I want to convert them onto, we just continue and convert. And just like with other processes that you do in Cloudingo, once that's taken place, you can see we've submitted and called to Salesforce. You do get confirmation in your activity stream that that conversion was successful 1 minute ago. Now, just as mentioned a moment ago, you have the ability to mass convert by selecting all the records and saying mass convert. And your multi-table filters can also be processed on a scheduled basis as well. So if you do schedule them, I would recommend running the lead to contact first, and then you can, even on a scheduled basis, just schedule that one a little bit earlier than the lead to account, and then you can come in. It looks just like scheduling any of your dedupe or data maintenance filters, and you scheduled, you want it to be done daily, maybe weekly, what day of the week, so we could say Friday night at 8 p.m. And remember, when we say no, we're just going to be recalculating totals. And if you'd like it to actually go through and automatically convert the records, you would select yes. And of course, I just have the single convert rule. So once again, just to remind you, the filters are the which records do we want to convert. You make your selections for what fields need to match from the lead to the contact to consider that the correct leads and the correct accounts. You then can limit by any of the fields on both your leads and accounts. So you could limit it to a certain status or a particular geography or a type of account. If you need to limit your groups by any field, either by size because you're automating or you just want to test some smaller groups to begin with, or maybe you'd prefer to review the larger ones, that can be handled on limiting your groups. Or you can also set a limitation based on some date, for instance, a create date or a modified date. So those are our settings for which records do we want to convert. It can be scheduled on your dashboard. And if you'd like to handle the conversion differently or maybe automate filters on a tight, like an exact match for lead to the account based on the company name, and then have another one that's a wider match like a company name clean or a first 2 words on the account name, where you would want to go through and make sure it's the right account but catch some others, you can have as many filters as you need, and you can also customize the settings if you ever need to set them differently by having different convert rules. So that's the process for our lead to convert filters. Now, just a quick reminder, our next session will actually be January 17th, and this is going to focus on the syncing process, how Cloudingo does that communication with your Salesforce account. And so this will just be an informational. We do have lots of people asking and wanting to understand how that works in the background. So this would be a wonderful topic, and it is a unique session that we haven't done before. So we invite you to join us on January the 17th. Remember, we have lots of resources available at our help site, help.cloudingo.com. You can also join us for new user training the first Thursday of every month. You can register, and it's a great refresher for people who haven't used Cloudingo in a while, or if you're a brand new user on a new account or just a new user on a current account. And finally, our support team is always available and happy to help you. If you have questions, you can go to support@symphonicssource.com. And we're happy to fill you in and assist with any specific questions or concerns that you have. So thank you for joining today. Hope you all have a wonderful holiday, and we'll see you in 2020.